the German operations of the hybrid Europeans, they even set up a system that they call, and Abdullah was talking about it today, hermeneutics. Yeah. Now that's the system of how they train people to interpret Bible, Quran, different books like that, etc. But in the word itself, it's telling you what they're doing. Hermetic law is more science. Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes is Tahuti. See, so the people don't know these connections. They keep on going off in these little club games, schismed against each other. When if they go to the root, they find out they lost their root. That's what it is. In other words, they've been denationalized. Because your nationalization is also the customs and the traditions, not just the attributes that you've been calling names. Our concept of what nationalization is totally incorrect. It's also a restoration of the culture and the traditions. And guess what you will find? As an example, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would always tell the brothers and sisters in the FOI and the MGT, says, in reference to the studies, he would say the supreme wisdom will be handed you later. Why was he saying that? He was saying that because it is absolutely true. It means that the Saba or the Sabian culture that is really at the base of this will be handed you later after you've groomed yourself coming out of that mentality, of that Negroite mentality. And then you will get what you would call supreme wisdom, and then go into what you would call your Adam degrees. Of course, he never got a chance to do that, did he? Because that was infiltrated just like the Moorish Science Temple was infiltrated. J. Edgar Hoover. All you got to do is look at the FBI papers, and you'll see what's happening. You'll see why many people in these organizations don't promote civics deliberately and not accidentally. And you'll see that many of the people who know that Noble Drawley's registered the Moorish Temple of Science as a civic organization, and you'll see many people who claim to follow the instructions laid down by the prophet will never talk about that or never get into details about that. They'll just talk dogmatic religion. Yeah, and here we go. And here we go. All this BS still going on because no one will address the real civic matters, the matters of civilization, and the usurpation of the Republic order of the Constitution, i.e., which is the supreme law of the land via the treaties and the Constitution. That's the truth.
Right, another question or comments?
Go ahead.
Daryl Sadler says it takes big bucks, $ signs, and resources to quote unquote decolonize anywhere. You will be on your own completely. Can you afford it?
Oh, cool. Good. And I understand that. Then we say it's a big monster. Now, this is what your choice is. Your choice is start decolonizing and talking about this matter honestly, or be prepared to die. Because that's what's going to happen. Because that's what they're going to do. They're genociding these people off. Now, if that's your choice, you have a right. Then the deal of it is what's coming on this planet is that not unlike what he's saying and implying, which is actually a reality, right? It is a cruel reality. But you know what makes it uncomfortable? Because when you look at it, everybody has to admit, and they don't want to really admit it, that when you look at this honestly, you're admitting that they're waging war on the people. And it ain't some outside foreigners. It's these people who you've been calling your government and who are not your government. That's your problem. Now, meanwhile, these same people that have been going in Army, Navy, and Marines going around the world helping these hybrid, foreign, fake Americans war against their own people, but they won't stand up for truth here on their own land. And they'd rather bend over and be the hypocrite than to tell the truth because it's uncomfortable and it's ugly and it's big. Yes, we agree that Frankenstein, he grew up a little bit. Yes, Frankenstein's really acting like a real asshole. Yes, however, you had to burn Frankenstein up one way or another because Frankie's going to kill you. Now you make up your mind how you're going to handle this stuff, what you're going to do about it, and you got to be realistic. And the real deal of it is, the things that should have been going on is treaty enforcement, constitution enforcement, and the platform on which that is done internationally is called a consular platform of international communications, law enforcement, and restoration of estates. Now, the Pope of Rome, Pope Francis, touched on these things with his letter to Obama, which many of you have, that letter, Civil Orders. And for some of you who are listening, go on the internet, because it's public information. It's not even hidden. Civil Orders letter from Pope Francis to Barack H. Obama, and read it. Pay attention to the 4 different spellings of the United States, and pay attention to the section where he goes into estates, and pay attention to how it ends when he talks about this corruption that we're dealing with today has to do with them, instead of freeing, i.e. Africans, etc., they enslaved us and created bonds on us. And that's the corruption that they've been dealing with today, and that they were going to end all of that. And as a matter of fact, they had an international meeting when the Pope did the motu proprio in around 2013. That's when the United States Corporation went bankrupt again, and he told them not to continue. And they had so-called religious leaders from around the world and political and civic leaders from around the world, and they have a meeting. And they promised to end the doctrine of discovery, which is what we're talking about now, which means they were defunding the mercenary operations, which would include the police. However, if you're going to defund the corruption, you have to install legitimate operations, don't you? So now if you want to defund the corruption, ain't nobody talking about reinstituting the sheriffs, are they? Why? Because you have to go back to fatwa, which is Moorish law. This the whole point. And you hear, and a lot of Europeans, hybrid Europeans, know that. That's why you start seeing them talking about, oh man, they're gonna bring Sharia law back to America and stuff. What they really mean is they're gonna force that constitution, because it came from Muslim law. Obama told you that. It's not a secret, but how many people out there listening even know that the Constitution came from Muslim law, from the Honesty Confederation that already exists? Those are Moors. They just called some of us Indians in agreements because some of them are Naga. Hey, and Dravid. Hey, that's like the truth. How come they won't say that? How come some of these people who $5 Indians, who keep saying they $5 Indians, will tell you about the Naga and Dravid? They won't say that they Dravid, will they? Please, because they ain't.
Would that be the Dravidians?
Yes. And they daggone sure ain't the Paleolithic Europeans that wearing ponytails and beads claim to be Indians, beating drums. The fraud has to end. That's really, we've been living a fraud on so many levels. This is why there's confusion. And the deal of it is it's all crashing. That's what's happening. And not everybody. So many people want to fix this thing, but they're operating from a false platform and a false paradigm to try to fix something. You got to get rid of the false paradigm. You got to identify who's who, and you got to get the fake Americans out of here. And that's the truth. And then you got to stop the mercenary operations of the gangs of New York, who have been pretending since the 19th century to be peacekeepers when actually they're mercenary officers. They're not mercenary officers. They're mercenary policy, doctrine of discovery policy enforcers. That's what they are. And you've been calling them police officers. They've been calling themselves that. However, the doctrine of discovery enforcers, that's what they are. And it's unfortunate. And then they pay a few indigenous people, give them jobs to, to help hurt their own people to make this thing kind of look kind of legitimate. It's still a fraud. It's unfortunate, but it's still a fraud. Big fraud, yes. Monstrous fraud, yes. Extremely corrupt, absolutely. So now you got to bring out all your spirituality that you've claimed to have and start fixing things, don't you? Don't we? Yes, we do. Is there anything else?
I'm sure that there. Okay. Let me look. Kevin Anderson, we have a group of investors in the process of developing our own community and purchasing land. If we establish our own bylaws and claimed our nationalities, would we be separated from the U.S. court?
You've already been separated from the U.S. court. You was never a part of it. Your only connection with the U.S. corporation is through the bond system on Wall Street. You're not citizens of that foreign corporation. It is a foreign corporate entity. Do you happen to have a print off of the House Joint Resolution 192 or the Pope's letter to Obama?
I don't think so, but I can probably bring it up on my phone.
Anyway, for those of you, some of you who have been study House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session June the 5th of 1933, and you'll see how the birth certificates were used as bonds to back the United States corporation debt, which is not a country, it's a foreign corporation. If you're looking, if for those of you who are reading the letter from Pope Francis to Barack Obama, you will see the Pope will tell you that the United States is not a country. It is a corporation belonging to the Crown. The Crown is run from Fleet Street, England, which we have told you all for years. I.e., this is why they hide original Article Amendment Nobility Clause of Article Amendment 13 with its 20 sections. Because there are not supposed to be any lawyers holding any offices under the legitimate United States. How many of your congressmen, they ain't yours though, those persons claim to be congressmen and senators are lawyers. So why do you think you're getting screwed? Because the feudal operations are operating currently as government, not the government, as government.
Let me bring it up.
Go ahead.
Let me see. Oh, yeah. I'm ready.
In the same way we tell people to read the philosophy page of Frederick T. Gates and John D. Rockefeller for the General Education Board, they wouldn't be complaining about the education that their children aren't getting because they would know that they're already being set up. They don't even hide it because the parents won't even read. So what chance do the children have?
So I have a page up that says, what is HJR 192? Can we discharge our debts to the government?
You don't discharge your debts to the government. This is another fraud that they had perpetrated against us, is that the debt is already discharged. And it don't belong to you, it belongs to them. You see, that's where the whole fraud is. You see how the fraud continues? When the people find out the truth about the corruption of these operations, they keep attaching themselves to the debt, and they're not the debtor. It's against your estate. You're actually the creditors. You're the nationals of the land. They made the bonds against you since 1868. This is why people don't understand. People who are even telling these people to nationalize aren't telling them the truth about what nationalization impairs. Keep telling them they're in debt. You're not in debt. The debt belongs to the United States Corporation Company. That's House Joint Resolution 192. And they're still what? Trying to transfer the debt to you. We got work to do with our people. And this is horrible because all of your so-called Black leader scholars know this. I'm not even going to name them. All these guys on the internet talking about Africa, Afrocentricity, rights and stuff, all of them know this information. Why don't they tell their people the truth and stop making their people play victim? We're so busy playing victim that we're not paying attention to the facts of what's going on. We're helping ourselves be victim. and paying for it.
This is something that'll make you smile.
Good.
Khalid Wilson said, I'm naming my son Taj. Much respect to you, Elder. I have learned a lot. My wife is in labor as we speak. I had been tuning in from 2009 when you were giving lessons at the theater. So his wife is in labor. And
at the Rotunda.
He's going to name his son Taj.
Oh.
Islam.
Trust.
Islam. So let me go back here. Is there any other questions? Okay, here's a question from Amenhotep. Why did the Lenape Moors assist the colonists against our Tawny Moor brothers and sisters from the British monarchy?
Now, isn't that true? Now we got to start telling some truths, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Now, so now you're dealing with the karmic debt of many Moors having hybrid Europeans in slavery. We're talking karmic debt, aren't we? One of the issues of bringing peace because of the wars that were taking place in Andalusia, etc., was to teach them government. And because many of the European daughters were in the harems of Moors, and many of them knew the culture. This is how the daughters of the American Revolution actually came about. Most of those women that are members of the DAR, D-A-R, and keep in mind, they produced a book for citizenship that is used around the world, particularly in North America, and that's a good reference point for understanding fundamental principles of citizenship classification, etc. And that comes from Moorish law. Y'all should know that. Now, what they call the Odyssey and also Renapi. So when you're talking about the Moorish tribes here, you roll the R's. It's not Lenape, it's Renapi. Renapi, Moors, etc. Much of that was karma. And many of the high priests superseding the karmic response by actually teaching the hybrid Europeans government. So the Constitution that's adopted for the operations of trade, keep in mind that's for trade, not for them setting up a country in our land. That's for trade. The Constitution comes from honesty, confederation, constitution principles, and the confederations that already existed, and the hybrid Europeans were brought into confederation to do trade. Almost all of these things in operations between us and the hybrids are dealing with trade, etc., including some of them becoming indentured. Now that's the fact. And also for many of you others who don't know the real history, do some in-depth research on the Whiggamore Party. And this is where the hybrid Europeans would wear curly wigs pretending to be justices, i.e., or pretending to be sovereigns, and entertaining or exercising, i.e., the sovereign powers of the Moors, learning jurisprudence from the Moors, etc. And of course, that split into the conscience wigs and the cotton wigs, etc. And there you have the battles between them, and now that evolved their Democratic and Republican Party, imitating Moorish law. It's still your stuff.
Jasmine Daniel said, we absolutely need to connect on a metaphysical and spiritual in the quantum reality to allow our collective minds to manifest the future we desire.
And that is true, because we are creators and makers of our own. Now let's go back to this and in support of what she's saying.
I agree.
This is why it's important for people to go back to more science, which is actually Hermetic law, so that your concept of mind, see, because the reference points that our people are using in the name of spirituality are corrupted. And so when they try to go, they're usually going into Afro-Asiatic culture with a corrupted anthropomorphic perspective. And so therefore they still don't meet because they're corrupted. The other deal is the patriotization of all the God systems and the misrepresentation of the God systems. The people don't even know that the God systems are transit, or what you call transitive verb action, latent action activities of the development of the body, and not a being outside yourself. So to even be into the spirit principle, they even have to learn the breathing techniques, which is really the spiritual techniques, and then the Hermetic philosophies, which is really the religion and the cosmology. And if that's not brought back to the people, they will battle each other by design, because most of them are approaching this, and you know this to be true, from the dogma systems taught to them by the hybrids who took over. That's the truth. Get over it. And we got to fix that. It's not that it's not fixable. It's that people don't want to tell the truth because they got to dump all their idol God systems that they've adopted. And rather than tell the truth, they be the hypocrites and then try to fix things. It can't work that way.
Jordan Cellfood asked, was the U.S. flag is created by the Moors?
Say it again.
Is the U.S. flag created, or was it created by the Moors?
It's a trading banner, and still that comes from us too, and them. Actually, that's a trade. You got your 7 red stripes. The 7 red stripes that represents Saba. All right. And your red, white, and blue actually represents the colors of the dog star, etc., which is our guide star, etc., and the convergence of the constellations. So that doesn't, in fact, really even belong to the hybrids anyway, but we're allowing that. The real flags that should be operating when that is flying is the continental flag. That is the red flag with the white canton with the cedar tree in the corner. And then you've got the national flag, which is the red flag with the 5-pointed green star of Venus in it, or Freya, etc. And those 3 flags are supposed to be flying together when they're trading and operating. And that Stars and Stripe is not the national flag. It's a trading banner for commerce. Not to be rejected, to be understood.
Jeremy L. Malik Bey says, it seems to me that we can charge our Moorish brothers and sisters that work for the bar and these unlawful gangs for treason.
Sure you can. Because number one, the bar, they're holding their allegiances to the Circle Church and the Chancery on Fleet Street, England, who's beholding to the Jesuit order and to the Pope of Rome, and not to the order of the honor of anything allodial whatsoever relative to the rights of the people. And with the missionary operations to subvert treaties and constitutions. In fact, that's why, by law, they were not to hold any office under the Republic, United States, distinguished from the democracy operations of the Klan. And then you have some members of the Ku Klux Klan that are actually dedicated to enforcing Constitution principle and are not negative at all, the way the people think. It's just that they've been infiltrated and corrupted too. So our concepts about a lot of things have been so corrupted that we got to get back to fundamental truths to start fixing this stuff. But for the most part, it's like a cruel, hard lesson for everybody now. We got a lot of things to dump. We really do. A lot of things to dump. And the deal of it is, because the dark priesthood has been so desperate and so willing to start openly murdering the people off, the people really have to start taking this stuff serious, like seriously serious. Because by the time some of these people decide that they want to start really getting serious about helping to fix this thing and about nationalizing this stuff to start fixing the issue of the states and everything, this man's trying to kill them off before that happens. And he's not joking. And this is what makes it really, really dangerous and a bad time for our people, because while they've been messing around, looking at this information here and there, taking, twisted opinions, trying to justify whatever position there is, trying to preserve their jobs and different things, while they're thinking they're securing themselves, this man's plotting on killing them and their babies. And he ain't joking. And he's going to force vaccinations on anybody that ain't national. I guarantee you that. Because they're doing everything they can to force national law. That's why they're doing these things like this Chad and all this stuff, make it look like these people are really working for the people. No, they're trying to create an air of insurrection to justify bringing the United Nations in. And believe me, they're going to start killing these people openly then, under the guise that these people are terrorist groups, even though they're not, if you get the point. They're leading them into doing things so they can classify them. And then later, crash them. Oh, yeah, lead them to the stink party, give them the ticket to the stink party, and then charge them with stinking. Yeah, oh, yeah. That's how they do stuff. And pay attention to this. As soon as someone starts talking about these problems that are going on, and as soon as they start talking the race issue, bring up Carlos Linnaeus. And if they can't go into it, know that they're operating for the CIA and the FBI to create what you call an interjected disruption. Because that's a weaponized social engineering paradigm from Carlos Linnaeus and introduced in the United States Corporation with the Census Bureau for misclassifying the people in order to avert their obligation to treaty and constitution enforcement and to divert the issue of nationalizing. That's the truth. The whole race argument is used for that purpose. That is its political function. It has nothing to do with genetics and the concept that you think it does. It's a caste system construct. And also, I was shared, TT shared some information with me earlier, and this is also part of the game of the construct or the misrepresentation of Jesus as an example, where Jesus is actually Ios, which we already know Jesus is Ios, and also the Son, but Jesus is actually in its original form, Ios, actually the symbol of mother and son together, and actually Iona, etc. So it's actually a feminine principle. So now you know, and I know that is totally contrary to what they've been told in churches and mosques. However, that's origin, that's original, what I just told you. And they will deny the original in order to support the anthropomorphic presentment, in order to create confusion and hatred among the people in the name of religion. And then that schism operations is used against the people, and then they control and conquer the people. Meaning people really don't know the culture. They thought they were being told the culture. They're not really being spiritual. They're actually under mind control.
Question. CMD 1920, could you explain the Sultan of Morocco? I don't know what that means.
It's not complete. It's not a complete question.
I don't know what
it's an incomplete question.
I know.
Can't answer
They've asked it twice, but it's still.
Expand.
I don't really want to know.
The question's incomplete.
Yeah. Can you expound on that question about what you want to know about the Sultan of Morocco?
The Sultan of Morocco, you would look at him no different, like you say, the President of the United States. It's like saying the same thing. What do you? I
don't know whether they're asking, not unless they want to know maybe the relationship to the current Sultan of Morocco.
Oh, are they talking about? Wait, so I don't know.
I'm just assuming.
Yeah, no, this is what I'm saying. Are you making reference to the Sultan or the ambassador visiting North America to celebrate Noble Ali's solar return birthday, which they did a couple times? Is he referring to that? Or
I don't know that, and I don't know whether it's a he or she, but because it's a number. But I don't know whether they're wanting to know vague. What that relationship
Tell
is.
Them to restructure because we're wasting time because it's vague. It's not a clear question.
this obviously is a person who's new, who's saying,
I know, but it's not.
no, this is another one.
Yeah.
Stan Banjo is saying, what is the proper way to nationalize? Can you please answer this question this time? So, I mean,
Basically is first your consciousness, and this is true. Now, Drawley set up in the old Canaanite temple and in the Moorish Temple of Science process of nationalization, and that's where you're reclaiming your name and your nationality. That is preliminary. However, the expansion on it is relearning the culture, realigning yourself with treaty and constitutional principles of organized government, i.e., law, order, and governmental principles, and of course the culture. And it will take time for you to learn the culture. What we have been doing, particularly in these late years, have been concentrating on the civic area and teaching people the culture so that they wouldn't think that their pedigree is a religion, which many people have been misrepresenting their nationality as a religion, and has created confusion. And so you have an incomplete concept. Now, so nationalization in its nature is really no different than, like, as an example, if someone has been calling your pit bull, this guy's been going around in the neighborhood calling pit bulls elephants for years. And they say, well, how do you correct this situation? You stop calling the pit bull an elephant, for starters. Pit bull is not an elephant. So get that clear, and get that clear in your head. Then put it back, classified it as a canine and not a pachyderm. Now that's real. So the deal is Negro, Black, and colored are in nom de guerre caste system code names, terms, not pedigree, used to denationalize the people of the land so they could enforce the doctrine of discovery, stealing the land, and at the same time, and in the same process, create schism, or called divide and conquer. So you have people of Canaanite, more that by descent calling themselves Indians, blacks, Negroes, Coon, people of color, colored people, Afro-Americans, which creates a schism. Now, fact, none of those terms have anything to do with any established government on the planet Earth, nor treaty, nor constitution, nor legitimate contract. Therefore, they have no claim of any estates nowhere on the planet. The people don't know that that's why that was done, to denationalize them and to defrock them and disenfranchise them from all rights, claims of estates, and the capacity at law and in law to inherit, whether corporal and incorporeal, which makes them by default wards of whatever corporate state operators are claiming jurisdiction over them.
State property.
Yes, that's where the term comes from. Mm-hmm. That's what the term actually is. And he actually made them think that was an Afrocentric hood term of endearment. It's a wardship claim. That means you are property of the popes of Rome. You have no right even to your own body or self, or anything that you buy or sell. This is why, under the bottomry operations of the United States corporation operators, that you're not allowed to own your cars. That's why they register them to the state, so that anytime they can take that vehicle from you and you be thinking it's yours. It's not yours. You're referred to as, a leasee, and they can force you to get contracts of insurance with their buddies, where the congressmen and the senators have stock in the insurance companies, and when you don't give them their kickbacks, they'll send the gangs of New York on the street, stop you, say you got a contract. They won't say you got a contract with my buddy, with the private so-called Jewish, that's what they'll say, yeah, who own the insurance company that's doing human trafficking. Do you have an insurance contract with them? They won't say it that way. They say, give me your license and insurance. And when you don't, then they take your stuff and lock you up. Sometimes they shoot the people. Sometimes they kill them. Sometimes they beat them down on the street, and they take the vehicle and then they pawn it back to you with some kind
Auctions.
of and then if you don't pawn it back, they'll auction it off and sell it. All of which is unconstitutional. But then these people don't want to deal with Constitution and treaty, do they? They want to march and pray and protest. That's what our problem is. You keep getting led into what you should not be doing. That energy should have been put into enforcing Constitution and treaty and consular venues, and your community should have stayed intact. And not just that, back to the one we're talking about, they have some investors. Any trade that is done with the Federal Reserve note belongs to the Jesuits. Now, they're not telling you that, but that's true. Number two, if you're not already national and you make any transaction, it is state property from the door. Anything that is transacted under deeds and mortgages and not converted back into allodial titles or aboriginal titles or deeds by treaty, it is claimed by the state. You own nothing. You will become a tenant and you'll be treated accordingly. And then they'll tax you out of it. And then when they feel like it, by eminent domain under fake sovereignty, claiming to be white people, which they are not, they'll come and take it anyway when they feel like it. Now, that's the truth. Now, how do you solve that? Nationalize. You don't have to buy shit. Excuse my expression, not the language. Claim the land. It's yours. It is claimed by the state. You own nothing. You will become a tenant and you'll be treated accordingly. And then they'll tax you out of it. And then when they feel like it, by eminent domain under fake sovereignty, claiming to be white people, which they are not, they'll come and take it anyway when they feel like it. Now, that's the truth. Now, how do you solve that? Nationalize. You don't have to buy shit. Excuse my expression, not the language. Claim the land. It's yours.
Period.
That, nationalize. You don't have to buy shit. Land is yours. And adverse claim is one of the ways that it's done. But again, you need to be organized and go back to the law because you have right to that. And these fake bankers and these fake people claim to be Jews, how they got wealthy is doing adverse claims on your land and then claiming to be somebody they're not and getting you to claim to be somebody you're not. And we keep on playing into it.